again, and Rachel and I are going to show you today how to use shearing elastic. So shearing elastic comes in a variety of different colours. The good thing is you don't necessarily need to have a matching shearing elastic to your fabric. They do tend to come in either a light or a dark, so if you're using a light colour then go for a light thread, and if you're using a dark one then go for a dark one. Shearing elastic gives this kind of effect. This is a dress that we made in class recently, and you can see what's happened here is we've got all of this ruching on the waistline, and this is creating the shape for the dress. And if I just sneakily show you the inside, this is where you'll see the shearing elastic. So you can see these lines here. These are all our lines of shearing elastic, and they've been sewn in place with the top thread on the top of your machine as a normal thread. So you'll need a matching thread to your fabric on the top, and then the shearing elastic in the bobbin. And you can see, if Rachel zooms in, you can see I've got the white shearing elastic and I've got the navy, which is what I've used on the front of the dress. So it all comes out like that, and I've added, I think, 7 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines of shearing, which gives a nice pulled in effect at the waistline and gives all of that lovely shape and still giving it lots of drape. So what we need to do first is we need to wind our bobbin with the shearing elastic. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm just going to unravel a little bit and show you how to get it started. So I'm taking a standard bobbin, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a nice clean edge to the shearing elastic, and I'm going to feed it into the middle and out through one of the holes on the top, just as you would an ordinary thread. So it's coming in like that. I'm just popping my finger on the top, and I'm going to grab the side of the bobbin while holding the elastic in place. And then I'm just going to start winding. Now I'm not pulling, I'm just winding it round, okay? And letting the elastic spread out along the bobbin as you would normally, but your machine would normally do this for you. If you try to do this on your machine, it would just stretch it and it would break it, and it would be a complete disaster. So you may find, I'm just going to move it around now, because I'm just going to try and get right into the corner on the bobbin like that. And I find having the bobbin, the shearing thread bobbin spool on your knee or on the table just means that you can pull it without stretching it, and I'm not worrying by the fact that it doesn't look very nice at the minute, because that's exactly how it should look. We're not looking for nice neat bobbins like you do with your ordinary thread. And then you just basically fill it until you think that's about as full as my bobbin would normally be, so I'll leave it there, and I'm just going to snip off a little bit, and I am going to snip off that little tail because I don't want it to interfere with the mechanism on the machine. And there we've got a wound bobbin ready to sew.
So Nikki's handed me her wound bobbin, beautifully done, Nikki. And I'm now going to show you how to put it in the machine, adjust your settings, and then how to sew your lines of shearing. So the machine that we're using here is Nikki's machine. This is Lulu, and she's actually a top-loading machine. She has a top-loading bobbin, but some of you will have front-loading bobbins. So before I put it in this machine, I'm going to show you how you would put it in a bobbin case for a front-loading machine. So it's quite simple. You just put it in as you normally would your thread. So you can just pop that in there. But this is important. You need to keep your finger on the actual bobbin so it can't move around inside the bobbin case, so that you can gently pull on the elastic to get it into the groove that you usually put it in. Now it's quite important to be firm but not too forceful with it, because otherwise this little guard here will actually snap your elastic, and then you'll have to keep doing it until you get it right. So having your finger on the bobbin, stopping it from moving, means that you can tension the elastic to get it thin enough that it can fit easily through those grooves. So that's what you would do if you had a front loading machine. Then you would pop it in and you would bring up your bobbin thread as normal with your top thread. But I'm actually going to pull that out so that I can show you how to do it on a top loading machine. I'm going to pop this into our top loading machine, And I just want you to notice a couple of things here on the bobbin case in case your machine is the same. So this machine has an automatic cutter where we pull the thread around here and it will actually cut off the excess ready to sew. But it's really important with shearing elastic that you don't do that. You want to leave a nice long tail. So we need to make sure that it's very firmly in this groove here, but we're not going to bring it round and cut it off. So usual standard way of putting in a bobbin, you need to, we say make a P, but basically you want your tail to be on the left hand side. And I'm going to pop that in, and again keeping my thumb on top of it so that I can pull it nice and tight to get it tightly in all those grooves. And then I want to pull it as tight as I feel like I can, but without snapping the thread, to make sure it's really firmly in there. And then I can let go gently so as not to spin the bobbin around as the elastic is relaxing. So you need to bring up the thread now as we would do with a normal machine by bringing the needle down and back up again, and then we can pull on the top thread, and that's going to bring our shearing elastic up to the top. So we just want to give it a slightly longer tail than usual because you can see it's going to spring back. So I'm just going to pull it out so you've got a good few inches before you start, and then we can pop our guard back on and we're ready to sew. So I've increased the stitch length here from a standard stitch length of about 2.5 to roughly 3.5. It may vary for your machine. You may even need to go up to the longest possible stitch length, but I find that roughly a 3.5 to 4 seems to work best. And now I'm just going to go ahead and sew as normal. So I'm going to start sewing. But quite important, I'm not going to stretch the fabric. I want to make sure that I'm not pushing it or pulling it through. I need to let the elastic do its job. So I'm just going to try and guide it very gently. And then hopefully, if you're lucky and everything has gone to plan, then you will find that it's starting to gather up behind your foot. And that's the shearing elastic doing its job. The squeaking sound is quite common with the elastic thread, so don't panic about that. When you get to the end of your line, you just need to bring your needle up and lift your foot, and then you want to pull a slightly longer tail than you normally would, just so that once you cut it and it springs back, it doesn't disappear completely into the machine. So here we go, there's our first line of shearing done. Now, depending on the type of fabric that you're using and the weight of it, one line of shearing might not actually make that much difference. But the beauty of it is that the more lines you do, the stronger your gather gets. So I'm going to sew this next one, and as I'm sewing, I'm just going to clear those gathers out of the way, just a few inches in front. And you can see that now the second line is in, it's gathering it up a little bit more. I'll put one more line in. And there we are. Now I've done my 3 rows of shearing. Obviously you'll put as many as you need to into your garment. What you can do to make it gather up a little bit more, a little trick, is to take your steam iron, and you want to turn the steam up to full volume, and you're not going to press it, you're just going to hover the iron above the lines of shearing and give it a blast of steam, and you can see that they instantly, the elastic tightens and they gather up a little bit more. It will still stretch out to full size, but it just means that you've got slightly neater gathers.
So we hope you find that useful. We love shearing elastic, and we think it's one of those things that once you try it, you want to put shearing elastic in everything. So you could go and have a little trail around the charity shops, find a dress that's too big, shear it around the top, shear it around the middle, shear it around the cuffs. Just go crazy and have a bit of fun. But it's a great thing to do, and it's a great thing to add to your sewing repertoire. So we hope you like these little tutorials that we're doing. If you want any more, pop a little message underneath and we'll see what we can do. We'll see you next time. Bye!